At the end of the last video, we show you if we intended not change the data content from the array, we should pass in the array using the const keyword to the function. So this const keyword actually can protect our array not being updated. So here you can see when I display the array, I calculate the array, I run the program again. Then you can see the data from the array still the same. Then you will say, of course they are the same because you didn't try to modify anything from these two functions. So now I will show you, because they didn't modify anything is because they passing by constants. So now I want to show you, for example, in the sum function, we just add the total from each element, right? So then maybe afterward, then I think about, oh, before I want to calculate the total, I want to make the first element from the array equal to 100. Okay, before I try to calculate. So then you can see here, you try to modify the element from the array, but you passing by the const keyword. Then we see what happened when we run the program. Then you see here, when you try to run the program, they give you the arrow. The arrow they told you, the assignment of read-only location none. So that means here is the arrow message they gave you is when you try to modify the data, but you passing this array is by constant keyword. Constant keyword means you can read my data. That's what we call read only, but you cannot modify the value. So that's why when you try to assign a new value to the read only array, then they give you the arrow. So now did you see how our const keyword can protect our data? So that's why here the purpose is from now on, when you try to write a program, when you try to write a function, you pass in the array. If you passing this array to the function only for the display purpose, or you only want to read the data only, you need to pass in by const keyword. If you try to modify the data, then just like our example 7.1, your function cannot have the const keyword. So actually from now on, depends on what your function purpose, you need to know, do you need to using the const keyword? So that's our example for the 7.1 and 7.2. So now you should know when I write this function, when I pass in the array, should I pass in read only or I can modify? So that will decide we're using the const keyword or not. Okay, so continue in this video. Actually, I have the last one I want to show you before you can moving forward to your assignment 10. This one actually we will try to fill out the array with random number. Because before we show you, if you have an array, you can use in the initialization list, or you can ask the user to pass in the information. But how about now? I told you I have an integer array, have 10 elements. I want you to fill out the content of array with random number between 0 to 100. So we should create the array with random number between 0 to 100. Can we do that? Yes, we can, right? Because you did learn rand function. Right, so that's why here, after we declare the size equal to 10, we declare an array called values. So then each element, when we want to assign value, right, I just need to have a for loop, right? So then your for loop from I equal to 0, I less than the size. So in order to create a random number between 0 to 100, okay, so this one depends on do I including the 100 or not. So if we including 100, right, so we remember we say we do the rand mode by 101. Okay, if we including 100. But of course, if not including 100, then we do the mode by 100. But here, since I say 0 to 100, so then we do the 100. So did you remember? You just need to do the rand mode by the number 101. So my remainder will be between 0 to 100. So then I just assign to my variable, assign to my array. So that's how we will fill out the array element with random number. So then let's refer to our chapter 7 example 11. So then actually this one we will make our create a random number as a function. So in the example 11, let's have our show values function we have before. So that's why we can display the array, the integer array. So now earlier we said we want to create a random number between 0 to 100, right? So that's why we need to have our array created. So since we need to use the rand function, we need to have the srand to have the random sequence. So fill out the random value between 0 to 100. So since we didn't say inclusively, we just say that's inclusively. So that's why 0 to 100, each one we just do the rand mode by 101. So after you finish this for loop, then let's display our array. So then you can see here, how is our array look like? So that's why you can see we have the random number. And also since we do the srand, so every time I run the program, my 10 number will be different. So that's how you will generate the random number to the integer value between 0 to 100. So now after you understand how to do that, I want you to think about, how about I don't want to start from 0. I want to start from 100 to 500. So how should we modify chapter 7, example 11? So how to make the range within 100 to 500. So how to do that actually is, when we create a random number between low and high, I think we talked about this one before, right? So let's review again. Your low and the high, actually between high minus low, this one is the range. So this range will be do the modulus. Because you see here, when you want to make the range between 100 to 500, actually the difference is only the 400. So this 400, which one I should choose? So that's why here we will mode by high minus low. So then since our base is start from 100, so then we just need to add the low. So that will have your create a random number between low and high, because sometimes your low may not be start from 0. So then here we can using the calculation like this. Your low and high actually just the range for the random number. So that's why we're using low minus high to do the modulus. So then actually the low actually is the base. So then we need to add them. So that's our random number will be like this. So always equal to the range modulus the range. Then we plus the base. So on the other hand, if we go back to see our example 11, if I want to fill out the number between 100 to 500, so actually, right, so when we want to do the random modulus, right, we will modulus the range. So the range will be 500 minus 100. So after we do the modulus, we plus the base. So that will be your new random number between 100 to 500. So then you can run the program. Then you can see, right, each time they are between 100 to 500. So that's for the random integer. So continue. We know how to create the random number for the integer. Now, if I ask you to create 10 elements for the double value array, so those double array will fill out the content for the array for the value between 0 to 100. and with the two digit in decimal. So how should we do that? So actually what I want you to think actually is this way. When we talk about decimal number, you see we say between 100, between 0 to 100, then you have two decimal digits, right? So actually for any number, I just want you to think about the decimal number, whole number part. For example, that's 100. So for example, when we say decimal number, we just need to separate the integer part and the decimal part. Because anytime the number, when we say the decimal number, they just mean they have decimal. They have the whole number part and they have the decimal part. So that we can using the range separately. So you can see here, when you have your integer part, that will be the same as we talked about earlier for the integer. So when you have integer number, they always equal to the high minus low plus low. So actually this part, for the first part, this one is the integer part. So that's the integer part. So then they will be the same thing as you do before. But one thing is when we say the decimal number between 0 to 100, right? So then they only can until 99. Okay, so that's why here, be careful when you divide mode, it's just low minus high, then we plus the low. So then actually the range, so then you see your decimal. On the decimal part, actually just two digits, right? So this two digits actually between 0 to 99. So on the other hand, you see here, your decimal part, you just need to do the range mode by 100. Why? Because 0 to 99. But afterward, we try to multiply, depends on how many decimal points you have. So then you just multiply by 0.1. So that's why here you just think about when you have the double number, have the range, you just consider they are whole number part and the decimal part. So that's why when we try to generate a number between 0 to 100 and with two decimal digits, so we still have our array size is 10. You're still using a for loop. So when you create, you just have your whole number part. Then you have your decimal part. So the decimal part just depends on how many decimal digits you have. So here is two digits, so I multiply by 100. So times by 0.01. If you have three digits, you just multiply by 1000, then times 0.001. Okay, so I hope this one help you to understand. So then you can see the example in chapter 7, example 12. So in example 12, you see here, we have our program, the same thing. We will generate the double number. Okay, so this double number, the size is 10. So then we want to fill out the random value between 0 to 100 in the array with two decimal digits. So remember we told you. So each number actually just need to have the range multiplied by 100 for the whole number part. Then you have your range multiplied by 100 times 0.01. That's the decimal part. Then we add together. Then we display the array. But then you can see one thing is when we display the array, you see here, earlier our show value array, we pass in an integer array. But now since you want to display double array, so that's why you need to change your data type is double. So then that's the array, then the size. But you can see here, your program is still the same. You still need to using a for loop to display one by one. So since here we have a decimal number, we make the width a little bigger. So then when we display, we just set precision is 2. So now the same thing, you see we have S range. So every time we will have different sequence. So then you can see we run the program. That's the number, have two decimal digits and with different number each time between 0 to 100. So that's how you generate the decimal random number.